Hello there, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Sam, and I'm in Client Services here at the Retirement Group. I moderate these weekly webinars. In just a moment, we're going to be joined by our advisor, Tyson Mavar, and he's going to be speaking to AT&T employees about the key preparations that you should make before your return to office. And he's also going to address some of the concerns you may have so that you can make the most informed decisions for your retirement. Before Tyson comes on, however, I'd like to very quickly remind you that although we work very closely with both active and retired members of AT&T, the Retirement Group is not affiliated nor endorsed whatsoever by AT&T. We are a completely independent group of financial advisors. Throughout Tyson's presentation, I will be entering some links into the chat here on Zoom. Please take advantage of those. They will guide you to all of our AT&T focused content, and there's lots of content, as well as a link to book an appointment with an advisor after this webinar. And the last thing I will mention before I bring Tyson on is that after his presentation, I will come back on with him very quickly and ask him any of the questions you may have entered into the Q&A box. Please feel free to ask away. It is 100% anonymous, and we will answer as many questions as we can, time permitted, of course. We like to respect your time and get you out to enjoy your afternoon. And with all of that out of the way now, I'd like to just bring on our speaker today, Tyson Mavar. Hi, Tyson.
Thank you, Sam, for the introduction, and thank you, folks, for attending our webinar series this afternoon. My name is Tyson Mavar, one of the AT&T focused retirement specialists for the Retirement Group here in Texas. And on today's webinar series, we're going to talk about some issues related to some changes happening at AT&T related to the return to office and consolidation of employees across various hubs throughout the country, AT&T hubs. Before we get into that, those of you who aren't as familiar with our company, the Retirement Group is an independent financial consulting company that specializes in working with corporate employees, specifically AT&T, one of the companies who we've serviced for the longest, over 30 years now. And our focus is to help people plan for and transition into a successful retirement. We also manage retirement assets through Charles Schwab as a fiduciary. And our hope is that if you find value in the information we have related to your retirement plans at AT&T, related to various investment strategies and tax strategies, that you might consider doing some business with us once you leave AT&T, assuming that you choose to use an advisory firm in retirement. Now, we have a whole host of complimentary services we encourage you to take advantage of. One where I find people get the most value, the retirement cash flow analysis, where we will take what you currently have, your assets and projected future income streams like potentially your pension annuity, rental income from a property, Social Security, and compare that to your liabilities or your expected expenses, which in many cases we help people figure out what those might be in retirement, and give you an outlook on your sustainability of your retirement plan, and more importantly, figure out things that you might want to consider doing today to improve the probability of success in your retirement plan, such as paying off debt, maybe not paying off debt, which way you take your pension, whether as lump sum or annuity, the timing of your transition from AT&T, whether or not you need to work after AT&T, how much you might need to ask for in your next salary, and how long you might have to work should you leave AT&T prior to your true retirement date. A lot of questions are answered by this cash flow analysis, so please take us up on this offer. It's a complimentary service. Usually takes about 15 minutes to put the numbers together, and usually about 30 minutes to an hour to review the numbers via web meeting or in-person meeting, to give us the opportunity to add some value to your retirement strategy. And hopefully in going through that exercise, you appreciate the time spent to at least help us grow our business by referring us to some of your coworkers, and maybe we might have a chance to do some business with you in the future. Also, we have a LinkedIn page where these webinars are published. So if you're not following us on LinkedIn yet, I strongly encourage you to do so. Talking much about the AT&T retirement strategies, but also about different generic tax strategies, estate planning, Social Security, different administrative aspects of the retirement transition. Great way to keep up to speed with some of the changes happening. Encourage you to follow us on LinkedIn as well. So today we're going to talk about some of the issues that come to mind for us as advisors when our clients have been asking us to help them evaluate whether or not to stay with the company, leave their current home or their current state and residence, or just leave the company and either get another job or retire for good. So we're going to talk about 3 issues relating to mortgage rates, state tax issues, as well as the emotional stress of losing a job unexpectedly. So what's happened in the last couple of years? Well, mortgage interest rates have climbed pretty substantially, and this has had many impacts on housing in different areas of the housing market. So we've seen 52% higher average monthly mortgage payments compared to rent, meaning that renting is now cheaper relatively compared to buying a house and having a mortgage. And this is the cheapest we've seen in close to 30 years. In fact, mortgage interest rates are now, for some, north of 8% for a 30-year mortgage. This compares to just 3 years ago when some folks were getting mortgage interest rates for less than 3%. So a substantial increase in a very short period of time. Looking at this historical mortgage interest rate analysis, equilibrium was between 96 and 2003. That was about average for renting versus mortgages. Buying was 12% cheaper on average in the 2010s compared to renting. And about 80% of outstanding US mortgages have an interest rate less than 5%, which people would be thrilled about today to be able to get those folks that are applying for mortgages in today's interest rate environment. Now, some of the challenges in the current landscape, it's difficult affording for many people the required 10% down payment due to not only escalating housing prices, but then the mortgage monthly payment to service that mortgage that comes with that. As the high mortgage interest rates are certainly deterring people from downsizing. And now that even though we have record housing prices, people just aren't selling their homes. Many people wanting to maintain that low interest rate, keep that for a long period of time. If they're moving, they're just renting out their house that carries that lower interest rate. And we've seen a 60% increase in monthly repayments on a $430,000 or a median house price compared to 3 years ago. So some of the rental market dynamics, we saw a 22% increase in rents over the last 3 years. Supply of homes to rent has increased, which has moderated rent growth. And it's predicted to see a rise in vacancy rates to 6.25% in 2024, next year. Now let's talk a little bit about state taxes, because for many of my clients, at least, that have worked for AT&T some more than 20 years, have been in the same state, in the same city their entire career. And the prospect of moving to another city, even if it's just for a couple years so you can reach your Mod 75 eligibility, or just meet your goals from a savings standpoint related to your overall retirement plan. This is a foreign territory for a lot of people, evaluating the variations from state to state. So there's a variation in total tax burden by state, and we're talking about not just property taxes from state to state. We're talking about income taxes. Many states will tax your income in addition to federal income taxes. Some states don't tax your income. This is certainly something you'd want to be aware of when moving to a different state. We also look at sales tax as well as excise tax, so the total taxes it cost in comparison the state that you currently live in. And highest tax states, residents pay double compared to the lowest tax states, interestingly enough. So big variance that we certainly want to be aware of before moving to a new state. New York and Hawaii are a couple of the highest tax burdens compared to some of the lower tax burden states, Alaska and Delaware. Even though Delaware actually has state income tax, we're looking at total tax burden, and property taxes play a big role in what we're talking about here. There's implications, massive implications for a lot of people in the long-term retirement plan when you're looking at the cost not only of potentially a higher mortgage payment and a higher mortgage interest rate, but also the taxes associated with the new state that you move to. And I know here in Texas, where I live, there are no state income taxes, but there are very high property taxes that in many cases offset, and sometimes more than offset, the savings related to no income tax. Relocating certainly to a tax-friendly state would be better for financial security. And this isn't just for this return to office push we're talking about, but I have a lot of clients that will move when they retire from AT&T, usually not to take a new job, but to either follow their kids or their grandchildren or move to a more tax-friendly state or a state with lower cost of living in total. And this is very common for folks that aren't stuck to a certain place because their job has them being there. And now we're seeing the company less and less willing to allow people to work from home. So being close to your actual office that you work in, they're putting more and more emphasis on, unfortunately. Let's talk about property taxes. We have average annual home property tax in the U.S. It's at $26.90 per year. Now, I know my property taxes are a lot higher than that in Texas, but there's many states that have very low property taxes that keep that total annual average down. Turns out that most states, more than half, actually have property tax on vehicles, $444 a year, not nearly as much as home taxes, but still worth mentioning. And as it turns out, over $14 billion in property taxes go unpaid per year for a variety of different reasons. Now let's talk about the real estate tax rate variation. So we see from state to state property taxes for the most part for the demand for living in a different state, whether it's for schools, whether it's because the weather is better. There's a variety of different reasons property taxes are different. But this needs to be considered into the plan. And what I would recommend when we do your cash flow analysis is actually do some digging. You could do this pretty easily on the internet to find out the house that might be comparable to the one you live in. If you're going to move to a different state, let's find out what the annual property taxes are on that new home. And let's even maybe consider renting and not necessarily buying a new place. I know some of my clients that are moving are going to rent out their home because they plan to return there, maybe if it's 1, 2, 5 years, and are just renting in the new state that they're moving to, so as to avoid the additional costs associated with relatively higher housing prices with extremely higher interest rates. Now, there's some major psychological impacts for losing a job, and we've seen this for, I've been with this company 12 years now. The retirement group has been helping people from AT&T for over 30 years. We've seen massive psychological and emotional stress related to losing a job. In fact, especially today, many of us identify with our jobs. It's part of our identity. And statistically, they say men more than women get financial stress from this, and mainly because they actually see more suicide rates from people losing their jobs in men. Not that that isn't seen with women, but statistically, we all have this psychological stress associated with losing a job, especially when it's unexpected. Now, for the last probably close to 20 years now, AT&T has been downsizing, and I think everybody has been on high alert that that is a possibility. So it's less of a surprise now than it was 15, 20 years ago. But it's never easy. I have 2 clients specifically this year that lost their job in either June or July, unexpectedly, after they decided not to retire and take their lump sum last year. Both of them lost several $100,000 in their lump sum and then lost their job 6 months later. We expect there to be more of that next year when people are moving to a new state and then within 1 or 2 years lose their job that they uprooted themselves to be able to maintain. So don't be surprised if we see more of that next year. The point is that we want to be prepared for this and have a good support group, make sure that we're talking with this possibility with family members, even friends. Keep your eyes open for new opportunities for jobs. Just expect that could happen at any time. Keep your resume updated, see what else is out there. Good news is both of my clients that left the company this summer unexpectedly from a surplus, they're already back to work and they're making more money, I'm happy to say, than what AT&T was paying them, which was also unexpected, but it was certainly delightful for them to know that it wasn't that difficult to find another job, that both of them are happier in, lower stress, more income. They don't have the pension benefits, but they still get health care. They both have 401ks. So turns out there's other jobs out there outside of AT&T. Hopefully you don't identify too passionately with the job that you may have had for several decades at AT&T, because there is life after AT&T. And nobody is above therapy. I've had recommended, actually, many of my clients talk to somebody, talk to a specialist if it's something that is very stressful. When you find out that you've lost your job and you just don't have a plan yet, the best thing to do is put the plan together ahead of time so that you can see what avenues you have to go down, and that you're not going to be destitute because we've put a plan together. But nobody is above therapy and seeing a specialist, because this is serious stuff. And we've seen people go into a depression, and like in my case, not take my calls as their financial advisor when I have things that I know need to get done, just because it's easy for us to shut down when we lose a job, especially one that we've identified with for maybe a long time. And we've actually seen 56% of people are more likely to quit a job after their first layoff, which is an interesting statistic, because we are less, I think the reasoning for this, we are less attached to a job. We realize that these are temporary employments. This is all business. And we just don't stick with an employer as long once we've gone through that layoff situation. And unfortunately, at AT&T, the severance packages have not gotten better over time. They've actually gotten worse, but there are tools that the company will offer you to help you with reemployment, whether it's building your resume, networking, highlighting your skill sets so that you can maintain your employability after you leave AT&T. But we definitely want to encourage people to explore new career paths, keep an open mind. It turns out, like in the case of a couple of my clients that found jobs that are less stressful, it's to be seen whether or not they're more fulfilling, but they're getting paid more for them. There's other options out there, folks. So just remember that and put the plan together ahead of time so you're not caught off guard when this potentially happens and you lose a job earlier than expected. So in summary, do your due diligence. If you're going to move, look at all the costs. Moving costs are one that are not covered by AT&T this go around. So what's the moving costs? What are the costs associated with higher taxes? What are the costs associated potentially with renting and or mortgage interest rates driving up the monthly payment if you buy in the new place that you go to live? Look at the different taxes associated, especially property taxes are a big one from state to state, as well as income taxes. How does that affect your overall retirement plan? And be prepared for the psychological stress that comes with getting a surplus letter, which currently right now still comes with a 6-month severance package. Even the folks that are being forced to move, if they choose not to move, I have seen everybody be honored their 6-month severance package. And moral of the story, it's critical that you put a plan together. We call ours a cash flow analysis. It's a complimentary service. So let us know if we've never done one for you, if you'd like to get that done. It takes a little bit of your time, but we're very confident it will be a good investment of your time. Statistically, though, unfortunately, 74% of Americans over the age of 50 don't have a written plan for their retirement. And we see this as being unacceptable, folks, for how important it is to put this together, not only to reduce your stress when these instances come up, you lose your job, interest rates go up, driving your lump sum down, health issue happens in your family, a catalyst that encourages you to change your date or change your plan. Putting the plan together reduces that stress, helps you to make decisions better under duress. And it'll also, we found in most cases, identify ways that you can improve your retirement plan, whether it's changing your investment allocation, changing the amount or the taxability of how you're saving, which pension option is going to be best for you and your family. Probably not a good idea to wait till the last minute to start thinking about that. And this cash flow analysis will help you to map out this transition. Whenever it happens, however it happens, you'll be ready for it if you put the plan together ahead of time. If you'd like to request that cash flow analysis or just want to have a conversation with myself or one of my colleagues at the company, you can email us at info@theretirementgroup.com. You can call us at the home office at 800-900-5867. You could take a picture of this QR code to get onto one of our AT&T focused advisors calendars. And again, here's that LinkedIn page QR code if you'd like to follow us for more content related to the AT&T retirement strategies. That's a great way to do so. So with that, we may have some questions, and Sam, I will let you ask any that came up if we do have any.
Hey, Tyson. Yeah, we have time for just a few questions. This first one, what financial precautions should I consider taking before relocating, given the potential risk of layoffs?
The best thing to do is just run the cash flow analysis. So call us, or if you have a financial advisor, hopefully they're going to offer to do this for you for free as well. Put the plan together. So we take your assets as well as liabilities, your expenses and income streams in retirement. We put it all together so you can see how it's going to work out and make sure it's sustainable. And then we can do a comparison analysis, comparing living in California versus Texas, for example, or comparing the retirement time frame of this year versus 2 years out, or not working another day in my life versus working a part-time job making $40,000 a year for the next 6 years. And these exercises we found are incredibly helpful for putting yourself in a position to make good decisions when the decision-making time comes, like in this case, whether or not to move to keep your job at AT&T, or whether or not to leave to avoid losing money on your lump sum, which it appears the interest rates are now even higher than they were last November, and we could see some additional lump sum losses going into January of 2024. Great question, but I'd encourage that person to give us a call.
Alrighty, thank you. And by the way, the cash flow analysis, the link to that is in the chat. So please take advantage of that. Okay, Tyson, number 2, if I decide to sell my current home with this low interest rate, how might a high mortgage rate in the new state affect my monthly expenses?
It's just going to increase it in most cases, unless you've got some cash tucked away that you can put a sizable down payment or pay cash. It's likely just going to increase not only your monthly cost today, but the total interest you pay over the life of the loan, which is just going to deteriorate your retirement plan a little bit more.
Thanks. Yep. Alrighty. One more, Tyson. Would it be advisable to dip into my retirement savings to offset the increased costs of a new home with a higher mortgage rate?
Possibly. There's some factors there, though. If you are not yet 59 and a half, that's going to be more costly to you than somebody that's over 59 and a half, assuming you're still working. If you are off payroll, there's a special tax strategy that allows you to get penalty-free income from your retirement accounts, like your pension, your 401k. But this person, I assume, is moving because the job is moving, and that's the whole reason they're moving, in which case there's possibility of taking a loan from your 401k. Withdrawals are often not advisable, but we've got to run the cash flow analysis because there's some comparisons there. There's the taxes associated with the withdrawal. There's also the interest associated with borrowing money from a bank. And if we weigh those two out, we can identify pretty easily with some simple math what's likely going to preserve your net worth the best by eroding it the least through taxes, mortgage interest rates, and potentially moving costs.
Alrighty, Tyson. That was all we had time for today. Anything else before we end?
I think that's it. Thanks, Sam, for the help today. And thank you, folks, for joining us today. Everybody have a good, safe rest of the week. And we hope to talk to you all very soon.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.